You are now tuned in to the Dads Who Lift podcast. Please give us a like, share, subscribe to the YouTube account. We are on www.dadswholiftofficial.com. All the podcast links are in there. We also have an apparel line that's taking pre-orders right now. We're on IG as Dads Who Lift Official handle. We're on Facebook, Dads Who Lift Podcast. We also have a Dads Who Lift fitness group on Facebook that's Dads Who Lift Official. A group of 30,000 like-minded dads that are just trying to be their best selves and staying fit. If that's something you're into, please check it out. But we do this stuff for free, guys, so please give us a like, share, 5-star review. We really appreciate your support. On this week's episode of the Dads Who Lift podcast, we talk about how one person can be cancer to your society and spread negativity throughout your life. Don't miss this episode, guys. You are now tuned into the Dads Who Lift podcast. We have your host, Tyler Gata.
Co-host, Joel Staley.
So I want to start off by just saying we do this stuff for free, guys. Please give us a like, share, subscribe. We really appreciate it. We need your support. We're on all the formats: YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, or something like that. But all the formats are on www.dadswholiftofficial.com. We really appreciate your support. So how's your new coaches going?
Going good. So we have...
We were just talking pre-podcast that Joel hired another new coach for his fitness company, his online fitness company, and he's actually hiring closers now to come in, which is something new because up to this point, he's been doing everything 100% on his own as far as all the sales calls, closing, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so that's the thing with the bottleneck was always, or has been for the last few months, how many calls I can take. So I was like, all right, I can get
how many calls you want to take.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. So then by adding sales reps, of course, any business, as the old saying goes, if you're not growing, you're dying. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm bottlenecked, I can't take any more calls, or I don't want to take any more calls without taking away from family time. I got to get some butts and some seats to take some calls with me. But then that creates a new list of problems, because I only had one accountability coach, and then I'm still customizing everyone's workouts. So now if there's 3 people taking calls, because they recommend you get 2 sales reps, and the reason for that is like you want there to be a little bit of a competition.
Yeah, right.
And if one of them is a dud, then you still have one, or if one's sick, you still have one. So 2 new sales reps, ideally that would mean 3 times the business coming in. Well, now if I only have one accountability coach, and I'm customizing all the workouts, then that becomes my new bottleneck. So now I have to onboard another accountability coach, someone to program the exercises. I have to switch the way I take payments, because instead of me just taking payments, now I need my sales reps to be able to take payments.
Yep.
My calendar, I have to set it so that link, instead of just going to my calendar, now like round robins to everyone's calendar. So it's just, I got to onboard, come up with the SOPs for all these new people. So yeah, it's just been like
more money, more problems.
But I got to say, although it is very annoying, sometimes it can give you a headache. There's just something about it that it's like this big puzzle you wake up to every day, and you're like, all right, well, I know these 2 fit together, but how the hell do I? And once you get those little wins, you're like yesterday, it's been like a week. I'm trying to figure out how everyone can take payments and get the calendar set up. Like a week of banging my head against the wall, and yesterday they both clicked like within the same half hour, got it all set up, and it's just like, yeah, it's highs are high, lows are low, it seems like.
Isn't it crazy how when you get those, like, it's so crazy how when things will linger that you don't get completed, like it's just like this little voice in the back of your head that never shuts the fuck up. And there's like that anxiety that comes with it. Like we talked about it on a podcast before, but once you actually like get that stuff done, it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah,
you know,
it's huge.
So much. I don't know. It's something about being propelled forward. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It just feels so good.
Yeah. Just problem solving. I mean, that's the name of the game. If you want to own a business or figure this stuff out, you just got to be prepared that.
And you've been waking up at like
3:15, yeah.
3:15 every morning for like 2 weeks now?
Yeah. 3 weeks. This is my 3rd week now.
That's crazy. On the weekends too, or just during the week?
I always say I'm going to on the weekends, and I never end up doing it. Yeah. So
you got to catch up at some point.
Yeah, and that's what I found out. So my whoop's like redlining by Friday, and then there's a big spike Saturday, Sunday. Then it starts coming back down again on Monday.
Balance, man.
It is. But it is nice because you literally get like an extra 20 hours in the week that's uninterrupted. No one's at the gym. no one's in the office.
Right.
No one's like texting you or emailing you at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah. Like I was saying, my pre-podcast too, but my son just started football and school's back in session. So he's back in school. They have to wear masks all day, but at least his school's going full time, which I don't agree with the mask, but at least he's there full time. I'll take it. You know what I mean? Get him out of the house, get him learning a little bit. But we have school back in session. Then he starts football. So now and Jesus Christ, man, he's in 4th grade elementary school, and they practice like 4 to 5 times a week for like an hour and a half to 2 hours a night.
Damn.
So it's like this week it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. What is this? 6 p.m. to 7:30. So then I'm like running around the whole time doing my workouts and my work during the day up until his practice at 6, pick him up from school at 3, take him back to the house, do some more work or workout or whatever. He does practice at 6. I actually started doing my outdoor cardio at his practice. I did that last night, and I actually brought my book too because I'm doing 75 hard still. So I read my 10 pages and did my outdoor cardio at his football practice.
Very smart.
I joked with him about I'm on day like 43 now, the 75 hard.
Dude, you're a beast.
And,
that's insane.
And I'm rolling with it. You know what I mean? I'm going to complete it. I'm going. Like, you can't go this far and stop. But it's just it's trying to figure out how to fit everything in, right? And so my whoop, like I said, my recovery is at like, what was it at?
39%.
39%. Like, I'm running myself into the ground. But again, mine will do the same thing. This weekend, I'll take the weekend, and it'll be a big spike because I'll sleep in or something. I think last weekend I ended up getting like 9 hours of sleep one night and 10 hours of sleep the next night. So that's like perfect. At least it balances out. My body's been getting crazy tight again lately, like just from all the stress and the exercise and everything. And I haven't had time to fit in like my chiropractor. I actually ran to the chiropractor this morning before this podcast for the first time in weeks, which felt amazing, but haven't been to the chiropractor. Body's been getting tight. So I was like, all right, man, I got to start doing yoga again. So I did 15 minutes of yoga last night, and I was joking with my son. I was like, what do you think if Dad brings his yoga mat to your football practice? And I had to do a little yoga on the sideline. He's like, no, Dad, no. I'm like, come on, I can take my shirt off and wear my little spandex like leg day shorts.
Dude, that'd be
and he's like,
no, lava lamp.
No, Dad, no. I'm like, come on, man.
That's funny. So you feel good about chiropractors? I've always gone back and forth.
Oh, I love chiropractors.
Some people swear by them. Some people swear the opposite.
I mean, so I got scoliosis. I've got really bad scoliosis in my back. So my body's thrown off naturally, and then when you add all the stress, like me as a person, I've always been like this. I hold all my stress in my shoulders and my traps. So when I'm like super stressed out, I'll like lose my neck. Like my shoulders will like just be up from just being tight and stressed out all the time. I used to actually have to go in. I used to do physical therapy over it because I was getting such bad headaches before I knew how to manage my stress like I do now. And they would actually go in and do needling on my traps to like release the stress. It's pretty crazy. That was like before I knew that it was stress and that I just needed to like calm the fuck down and meditate and chi out a little bit, take some time for me, read a book, do yoga, shit like that. You know,
dude,
what I
my
mean?
left shoulder always is. I think either my one pec is tight or my one trap is extra tight because my left shoulder hikes up like a half inch more than my right shoulder. And I have to like mentally, I'm like trying to bring it down, but I wonder if needling or going to the chiropractor would.
My right side's always lower, but that's from my scoliosis because my back, my spine curves. So then my hips are off. So then my shoulders like offset it to try to make it.
Yeah. I know I need to do yoga. I just never do.
Yoga feels so fucking good, man.
It does.
Even last night, excuse me, I only did 15 minutes of it, but God, I got done and I laid there on the mat when I got done and did a couple extra stretches, and I was just like, wow, man, that was good. I set my meditation music up. I lit some incense in my bathroom on my bathroom floor, laid my mat out after his football practice. And it was late. It was like 8 o'clock, and I still had to shower, eat dinner. He still had to read. He's got to read 4th grade, so they tell him to read 20 minutes of a book every night, so he still had to read his book. He went to bed a half hour late last night because it was just such a late night, but I was like, fuck it. I've just got to get this done. I've got to make time for me. I got to make sure I'm getting my yoga in and start doing it.
What's his situation like at school as far as lunches go? Because my niece and nephew, are in high school now, and what they have to do for lunch, they get a half hour, and they have like a folding chair that they sit in, and they have another folding chair that they put their lunch in, and everyone is spread 6 feet apart from each other. You can't even like sit with people.
I don't think it's like, I don't know. I guess I'll have to ask them. I haven't really asked him how lunch is.
They're like, it's the most depressing.
I know he's got to
ever.
wear masks all day except for lunch. I know they get to take the mask off for PE, like game day PE. Like if they're playing games in PE, they can take the mask off, and they don't have to wear them out to recess. So I don't know. This podcast actually was going to be about masks and stuff, but I don't think we're going to get into it right now, even though it's pretty blatant that we both don't agree with it, but to each their own. But they let them wear a fucking, have you seen those like SA company little like head face mask deals? Like it's basically like a
hang around your neck.
Yeah. It's basically like a handkerchief, but it's like made handkerchief, but it's like made all the way around. And so you pull them over your head, and then like, a lot of people wear them to cover their face in the wintertime or whatever. But I've got a bunch of those from, I just wear them when I'm like dirt biking or whatever, but they're super thin cotton. And he lets him wear those, or I'm sorry, the school lets him wear that. So he just wears this like SA company, shout out to SA company, little face mask that's super thin cloth that's got like a skull on the front of it. He thinks it's cool, and he can breathe right the fuck through it. And they let him wear, they're cool with it. So I'm like, whatever.
Nuts. But
yeah. So I don't know. I'm just glad to get him in school, whatever it takes. There's a lot of places that aren't even doing school. I mean, I'm a single dad that runs companies. Like if he had to do home learning, I couldn't do it. There's no fucking way. I'd have to hire somebody or put him at a private school or hire a teacher or whatever. I mean, I can't sit home with them all day and do online learning. It's just not practical. Nor do I want to. I'm not a teacher. Him and I would hate each other. Like that would ruin our relationship. Plus, we just got off summer, man. We had a lot of time together. I love my son. I love my time with him. But it's time to get him the fuck out of the house. He needs to be around get a little break. Too. Yeah, be like around the kids. Give daddy a little break. Let me focus, a little more on work. My offices are in my house, so all summer. And again, I'm not bitching. I love my son. I love him being around. But I hired my little sister to watch him this summer. So, my offices are in my house. So all summer, I'm in my house, in the office. I've got an office gal in my office, an office manager. And here my kid is running in and out with my little sister in and out of the house all day, banging, making messes, making ruckus. It's just like, oh my God, on top of trying to work. So we're ready for the pace. We're ready for the change.
That's why I had to get a co-working spot, because I'd be working from home. And
you did end up getting a spot? I didn't know you did.
Yeah, 143rd and Dodge. But
you rented one of those offices?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I'd be like in the middle of a sales call or talking to a client or something, and then Champ would just start barking at the Amazon guy, or like Amy wouldn't think I was on the phone, and she'd come in yelling at me. So I was like, all right, I got to get the hell out of here. And it was kind of nice, because after like 4 months of just wearing pajamas all day or gym clothes all day, I go to the gym in the morning and just wear my gym clothes all day. It feels nice to put on like people clothes on a day besides just podcast day and some weekends. So it's like you get out, you get in the office, you're in the zone. It makes a big difference. And I've always heard that, and I didn't really put a lot of stock into it. It's like that if you work from home, sometimes it's better to have an outside office, just like same as having a home gym. You change your environment, you change your mindset a little bit. You're like, I'm here to do a job.
Ways, if you were in an office 24/7 and you get a chance to switch up and be at home, that might feel good too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It goes both ways. But so the topic that I wanted to talk about today, since we're switching topics up, and maybe we'll do the mask one and the COVID deal later. I'm just not feeling it today. I don't want to sit here and bitch about shit all day. I want it to be a nice, good learning podcast. Exactly. But so what I want to talk about, and this doesn't sound like it's positive in the beginning, but I promise you we'll get to that, is cancer. That's what we're going to name this podcast, is cancer. And not cancer in the effect of cancer in my body, which that's horrible as well. But not like brain cancer, lung cancer, not like the medical condition cancer. What I'm talking about is culture, society, and how negative influences in your culture can spread like cancer to turn your culture or your society negative. And by that, I mean people, right? So every single culture has a set people in it, or every society has a set people in it. You can look at culture or your society as it can be work, it can be business, it can be your employees, it can be the people around you at work. It can be your friends, your circle of friends. It can be your family.
Your environment.
Yeah,
like any given time.
Exactly. So who you surround yourself with in your life at any given time, or your company or your business, it only takes one, man. And it only takes one to poison the well. And you can have the best, most positive environment ever. But if you let that one negative impact fester for too long, it can bring down the whole culture and the whole society. And so I've got a little story. So I've got in one of my companies, I've got this employee that my main company, my lawn stone landscape company, I've been in business now myself like 11 years or something like that. And there's this one guy that was with me from pretty much the beginning, not like day one, but when he was one of my first employees that I would call in to help me when I got big jobs and stuff like that. And so we go back a long ways. We have a long history. And he is a great guy. He's like at heart, he's a great guy. He's got a great heart, a big heart. He's one of those guys that just jokes about everything, laughs about everything. Great guy to be around. And I've always had at some point, a great guy to be around. And I've always had like a soft spot in my heart for this guy, just because we have so much history. But he's also one of those guys that fights a lot of internal demons, internal demons with, alcohol, drug use, stuff like that, his own battles inside him. And just one of those guys that just is very unmanageable and can never seem to get it together. No matter how many chances they get, he can never seem to get it together. And I'm sure every single person has somebody like that in their life.
Someone's coming to mind for everyone right now.
Everybody knows somebody, whether it's a friend, a family member, a business, whatever. Everybody has that one guy that like you've given so many fucking chances, and then you always swear, it burns you, and you always swear I'll never let it happen again. I'm done with him. And then a year later, 2 years later, you give him another chance, and then it happens again. And so this is what happened to me. So I've got this guy that worked for me years ago, and we talked about the COVID podcast. So I lost like over half my staff all in one day with this company, right? And so we made it through it. We're rebuilding back up employees, trying to get everything back running again so that I can go back to sales and I'm not actually out in the trenches doing the labor again to keep all the labor and business flowing. And so this guy reaches out to me and he wants to come back. And so, I thought about it. I didn't hire him right away, but we sat down and we had talks about what had happened in the past, and we had talks about, where my company's going and what I want for my culture and where we're at. And it's the same story every time, oh no, I've changed. That was a long time ago. It'll never be like that again. Blah, blah, blah. I really apologize. All that, this, that, and the other, the same stuff every single one of us has heard. So I gave him another chance, even though the last time he worked for me, he got fired for drinking on the job. And I swore that I would never hire that guy ever again in my entire life.
Damn.
And so,
how did he get caught? Just like,
oh, dude, he was fucking said he was sick, and it was actually at my nursery when I used to have a nursery, and he was like passed out in his car out in the parking lot, drunk. Like, he wasn't driving any of my vehicles or anything like that. He actually doesn't have a license, so I don't ever let him drive anyways. He wasn't driving any of my vehicles, and he actually wasn't even on a job. He was just working like at the nursery that day. But still, I shouldn't have ever let him come back. But either way, I ended up letting him come back. I set down all these ground rules. We talk about everything. I'm very, how do I say it? Not suspicious, but like I got a close eye on him the whole time he's back. You know what I mean? And so he fills a role. We end up hiring him back. We hire some other guys back. We get it back to where we have a great team. Everybody's out running the crews and the jobs by themselves. So I'm able to go back selling. I'm able to focus on my other companies again, which is good. So it got us through this time that we needed to get through. You know what I mean? But the last month, there's just been little things that start creeping back that little are like
flags.
Yep, little red flags. They're like the old things. It starts with complaining about things. It starts with, this guy's notorious for, in my company and in my culture, what I try to tell my managers and the higher ups is, if you have a problem, bring it to me or John, which John's been on the other podcast, but he's my main guy that helps me run that company. And we tell him, if you have a problem, bring that to either me or John, and we'll fix it. We'll address it. You know what I mean? If we have to have a sit down, we'll have a sit down. I basically have a morning meeting with my crews every single morning before they go out to address any issues. And so this guy was notorious for overreacting to things that happen and then puking that negativity all over the employees below him. So he was a foreman, and basically he would get upset over things and then bitch about it to all his guys. And this is where the cancer comes in, right? So if you get a guy that is upset about something that could be a tiny little thing that's easily, corrected, fixed, changed, whatever, or it might even be something that like he did on his own, but he's not taking responsibility for it and turning it around to be the victim, to play the victim. If you start as an upper management person and you're a foreman of a crew or above other employees below you, if you start puking on the company and your superiors to the employees below you, that shit spreads. Like if this guy hates working here and he, says it and whatever to all these guys, or bitches about something, man, this sucks that this mower's broke and this mower always breaks down, or whatever it may be. Then all these guys below him that he's working with in the truck, they start thinking that, oh man, why is this mower always broke? Why is this always happening? Or why is that always happening? When it could be an easy thing that gets corrected right away. You know what I mean? So this starts happening. We have multiple talks. Long story short, what ends up happening is he ends up, and this is where I fell short. I talked to John about it. I knew I should have let him go because I saw the same things happening again that had happened in the past. But we just kept saying, well, he's going to phase himself out. He's going to phase himself out. You know what I mean? And we knew he was going to phase himself out. Well, he ended up phasing himself out, but the damage that he did was, it's not irreparable. I mean, I was able to come back and correct it, but he basically created a bad work environment for everybody in the company. And so one guy that's a negative guy that has his own problems, and basically just the type of guy that will not accept responsibility for everything. Everything is always everybody else's fault. Nothing's ever on him. It's always, well, this guy did this or that guy did that. That whole mentality puked down onto the whole company, right? And so end up letting him go, end up having another guy quit over it. So I lost two guys. And basically had a whole weekend where I was out of town. The work didn't get done. I had to call in other guys to come in and finish it up that weekend and just turned into a big cluster. Long story short, I ended up getting other guys hired. I ended up keeping the main crews that I had, and ended up sitting down and talking to everybody. And we had to go back over our policies about, culture, team, what we stand for, what we want to do, how we create good work environments, things that we accept, things that we don't accept. And I had suspicions about things that he was doing, but I didn't have any proof. And I had talked to the guys and asked them before I had to let him go, or before he exited the company, about these things. Hey, and I called him out on them too. Hey, are you doing this? Is that? And everybody said no. Nobody wanted to speak up. And so it's funny, as soon as somebody exits the company, then everybody has everything to say about what he was doing. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to say it when he's there, but as soon as he leaves, oh yeah, he was doing this and he was doing that and he was doing that. So I had to go back through all of my policies and what we stand for as a company, where we're going as a company, how we create a good work environment, things that are acceptable, things that are not acceptable. And to be honest with you, I apologize to all of them because it was my fault for allowing this to go on as long as it did. As soon as I saw the red flag, the first red flags, I should have just let them go and parted ways. For whatever reason, I gave him way too many opportunities and it blew up in my face. But I apologized to my guys about it. We ended up going back over everything. And I also had to explain to them, like, listen, guys, what you are not changing, you're choosing, right? So if you knew that he was doing these things that you want to out him on after he exits the company, but didn't say anything when he was still here, then you were choosing that environment. You know what I mean? So if he's being negative and you're not bringing that to my attention and you're feeling drained or ran down that day, but you don't let me know, I'm not on the cruise every day. I'm there in the morning. I'll stop in and check on properties, but I'm out selling. I'm talking to managers. I'm talking to clients. I'm running the books. I mean, I'm doing other things. I'm not out with them 24/7. You know what I mean? So if you knew that this was going on and it was an issue and you know that this is not what I stand for in my company and you didn't bring it up to me, and this is like as a crew on this whole crew, you know, as a whole, like I said, whatever you're not correcting, you're choosing, man, and you're part of the problem too. So we had to have that talk on what's acceptable and what's not. And everybody today has this whole deal on like, you know, they don't want to be the snitch. And I try to explain to guys, man, you're not being the snitch by allowing things to. I have policies in order for this company to succeed for a reason. And that reason is so that we can thrive and succeed. We can have a good working environment and we can be successful. And when we can be successful, the company makes money, you make more money. When you do not follow those policies, or you don't turn somebody in for not following those policies, what can happen is through time, the company will not be successful. And if the company's not making money, sorry to say, Bob, but or not Bob or Steve or whatever your name is, you're not going to have a job, which means you're not making money. So your whole like, oh, I don't want to be a snitch, I don't want to rat on anybody, turns into it's going to fuck you in the end, you know? And so it's just this whole thing. And I sat there and I thought about it. And so I came out on top again. You know, I fell on the sword for my faults. I apologize for my faults. I corrected them immediately. Thank God. There was no damage done, no accounts lost, no work lost, no nothing like that. And the guys that I have now, it's amazing how once you get rid of that one bad apple, that whole next day just felt like a relief. Like everything felt so good again. Like the positivity was back. Everything was back on track. The crews are kicking ass this week. Like they're getting more work done than they have the past month every single day. Like everything just fell back in place and everything's just going so smooth and so good. And it's so much less of a hassle and a headache. You know what I mean? But I was sitting there thinking about it the day after I had the talk and the day that basically the relief came and things that were going good. And it's, you know, another obstacle that I overcame, another obstacle that we overcame as a company. And I was thinking about it and I just kind of laughed to myself. I think I was doing one of my outside cardios. I think I was out for a run or something. And I just kind of laughed to myself on how easy it is to poison the well.
Big time.
You know?
And not just in business. And like
in
relationships, friends, family, it's very easy. It takes one bad apple, as they say.
It does, man.
So, I mean, because like coming full circle, we were talking about I'm just now really building my team out because you realize pretty quick that you can't do everything by yourself. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give young Joel, as I like to consider you a mentor, as like just making sure that you do keep that cancer out as much as possible?
Man, I would just say that you got to follow your gut. You know what I mean? You know when something's off. You know when something's right. You can only talk to somebody so many times. You can only give somebody so many opportunities. You know, I like to see the positive. I like to stay in positivity and stay in gratitude and see the positive in everybody. But there's also certain situations where you just got to cut it. And so what I think there's certain things, and again, these are the things that I couldn't prove, but there's certain things that are just, you're fired immediately, you know, on any business. If you're doing drugs at work, if you're drinking at work, if you're rude to a customer, there's certain things that you're gone. And that's how that's just how it has to be. And then there's also certain things where you can have talks with. But I think a good way to go about it, well, man, it's so hard because it's so case by case, right? I mean, if you get somebody that is very growth minded and they're new, people are going to make mistakes. So I would say if you have somebody that actually listens when you have those talks and can accept responsibility and accept fault and grow from it, I would never let that person go. You know what I mean? People are going to fuck up. People are going to make mistakes. As long as somebody is taking account for that and growing from it and moving forward, I'd never let that guy go. That's probably your best guy. You know what I mean? But if you have to have the same talk over and over and over, and it just seems like they never get it or it doesn't ever change, in my mind, I think I'm going to go to more of like a 3-strike rule, man. Like you get 3 of the same kind of talks, and on the third one, you're out and you got to go. You get 3 chances to correct something. And if the same thing keeps happening over and over, you're out, you got to go. And I think that's the same with like even friends. We all have that one friend. Sorry, my throat's kind of dry this morning. But we all have that one friend that like never gets his shit together, can never hang. He might be fun or, to go out with or whatever, but there's always some kind of drama or there's always something that happens or, whatever. And I guess really what it comes down to is you have to know where you're heading and what kind of culture and society you want to surround yourself with, whether that be business, friendship, relationship, even in a marriage or a family. Know what you stand for and which direction you want to go. And if somebody's not growing with you towards that direction, and they're just not getting it and heading in that direction, then maybe it's time to separate yourself and move forward.
Definitely the easy thing to do. So people will justify, I mean, we're all probably guilty on some level. People will justify if it's their business or people in their life. They're like, yeah, he keeps messing up, but really it's just that resistance in your head that it's going to be an awkward ass either conversation or just distancing yourself from them, and you're trying to make it easier on yourself. Because like you said, it's a gut feeling, and the people that you should cut out. And if you start justifying like, yeah, but I've known him since, or like, but this is a family member, it's not always going to be an easy decision to do. And it's the hard decisions that are going to make the biggest impact, I feel like.
Or like, there might be fear. There may be like, how do I, even though he's a pain in my ass right now, he's still getting the job done. That crew's still making money. Who am I going to replace him with? You know what I mean? I don't have another foreman right now that can fill his position. Maybe I'll just put up with it a little bit longer. And that's what a lot of it was. And that's where that whole like, oh, he'll weed himself out was. But what I've learned, and I should have known this, I do know this, and I should have known this by now, but it's like anything else, man. You can give the best advice to your friend, but a lot of times it's hard for you to actually see it and follow it. But anytime I've ever lost a guy, and again, I don't like to lose good guys. That's not what I'm saying. But anytime I've ever lost an employee or a friend or anything like that, or had to separate myself from somebody, other people have always filled in. And it's crazy how this worked out. The day that I was thinking that, man, I'm going to have to let this guy go, I had an old employee that ended up leaving for a different company to make more money that I didn't want to match or couldn't match at the time. And he was a great guy, great employee. And I told him when he left, hey, man, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Like, it might sound better, but, I'm here for you. This is what I have to offer. I'm confident in my company and the culture that we have and the work environment that we create, and I'm going to take care of you and blah, blah, blah. He ended up leaving and testing the waters for himself. Well, the grass wasn't greener on the other side. He wanted to come back, but he reached out to me that same day. And, my first thought when he reached out to me was like, I don't know if I want to bring that guy back. He left. He wasn't part of the team. He wasn't part of the culture. He didn't trust in the company. He left because I don't want a guy that's going to always be looking for a better opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean? Always be chasing that extra dollar. Like, if you're going to leave my company for an extra 50 cents an hour, then you're not part of my culture. I want someone that wants to grow with my company. We offer benefits. We offer 2 weeks paid vacation, healthcare. We're working on 401ks. Like, I'm trying to create a good environment and a good culture, and I want someone that believes in that culture and is going to be there for the long haul, that's going to help me grow this company and move forward. And as we grow the company and move forward, then they'll make more money. But I don't want to have guys that just sit there and basically threaten me to, hey, either give me a raise or I'm gone. So my first thought was I don't know if I even want to bring him back. But then things developed with this guy that ended up exiting my company, and basically that next day he ended up exiting. And I thought back and I was like, man, it's crazy how this guy reached out to me that I hadn't heard from in months, the same weekend that this guy ends up exiting. And like, I didn't reach out to him, I didn't call him or anything. And so I ended up hiring him, and we had to talk about the culture and about the money. And he's like, no, man, I get it now. I left, I tried it, but I understand. I want to come back. I believe in the company. I believe in what you're doing. I want to be there for the long haul. And I'm like, okay, great. But it's crazy how when one leaves, one funneled right back in.
Yeah, so they talk about that. I think it's Robert Kiyosaki of the Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is funny because I've talked to so many entrepreneurs and they're like, yeah, I read that book and then 2 weeks later I quit my job. It was the same for me. I read that book and I don't know if it was just the universe or what, but I ended up quitting my job 2 weeks later. But he talks about in that book that when you do have a job, then you miss all these little opportunities. You're not hungry because you have your job. So a little thing might pop up and it doesn't even cross your radar because it doesn't need to. Whereas if you take that leap and now it's like, oh God, I got to make shit happen. Then all of a sudden this little opportunity is like, oh, what? You start pulling at the threads. It's like, oh, wow, I could do this. I could do this. So I think it's the same thing when you make those big decisions in life. Yeah, they're not easy, but then you probably wouldn't have given that guy a second thought if you were still working with the other guy. Mm-hmm. But it's just opportunities are always there. We're just not always paying attention.
Right.
That's what it seems like, at least.
Yeah.
So it is funny how that works. It seems to be that way in every aspect of life.
And that's always happened with me for friends too. They're, and I don't have anybody that, what's that saying? I don't want you not to eat, just down at my table or something like that. I don't have anybody I don't hate. I don't feel like I'm better than anybody. That's not the whole point here. The whole point is that I'm growing towards something. And if you're not growing towards that same thing, then you're not somebody that I'm going to associate with and keep around my circle 24/7, to impact my life. Because the people that are around you, like I said, the people that are around your family, the people that are around your friendship, people that are around your companies, your employees, the people that you surround yourself with does affect how you grow and how you move forward.
You're the sum of the closest five, like they say.
Yep, the sum of the closest five people the average of the closest five people that you keep around your life.
If you got one or two fucking losers in there, it really brings your stock down.
Right.
It does. So.
Yep. So, that's basically the podcast today, man. It's doesn't have to be crazy long, doesn't have to be crazy in depth. It's more about life experience and something that I knew, something that I know, but something that I overlooked myself. And so, like I said, I had that moment when I kind of looked back on it and laughed about it because, this is something that we all know. But I think it's also something that should be said and talked about because not everybody listens to it and pays attention to it.
Yeah, something just practical is get it out of your head. Again, it's not easy to make the decisions. So I would almost just break out a piece of paper, take 10 seconds to think about it and write down 3 to 5 people that might be making your environment a little bit more toxic, that you could put a little bit more distance in between yourself. And then on the other side of the paper, write down 3 to 5 people that you're like, oh, these people are doing big things. Maybe I could reach out to them, bring them in a little bit closer. So create less space between us. And then that might just trigger something, make it a little bit more real. I found whenever I write anything down, it goes a long way. So instead of just listening to this podcast and being like, yeah, this guy came to mind, but I'm still going to get beers with him on Friday. It's all good. Just take a couple seconds, write it down, and then you will be amazed. Like you said, that one guy was doing this to your company. You'll be amazed at how just one friend or one family member that's always got that toxicity about them, if you cut them out or just create a lot more space, just things get better.
Yeah, you don't have to tell people to fuck off, but there's a difference in giving somebody time and space in your life daily and just being there for maybe someone when they need you or something like that.
Yeah, you don't have to fire them and be like, hey, exactly. I can't hang out with you anymore. Just I'm not going to get beers this Friday, man. I'm going to go.
But it's crazy. Thoughts turn into things. Thoughts really do turn into things. You say that a lot on this podcast, but they do. Thoughts turn into things. And my thoughts, I try to keep positive and I try to stay in gratitude. But just in everyday life, and I think this is how everybody is, even sometimes that for me and my own thoughts is a struggle. You know what I mean? I mean, this happens, that happens. The guy in front of you is going slow, people at dropping kids off in the morning at school take them for fucking ever, and your kid's already almost late. You know, there's so many times during the day where my mind jumps to negative thoughts on its own, and I've got to consciously try to keep myself positive and in gratitude frequently. You know what I mean? And so if I'm talking to 5 people daily and I'm texting 5 people daily, which I keep my circle small. So some days, you know, outside of work, I'm probably not even talking to 5 friends every single day. But say you are talking to 5 people daily, family members, friends, whatever it may be. And those people are always positive and filling you up. And in return, you're positive and filling them up. That's going to propel you to be a positive person. But if you have that one friend that's texting you every day, everybody else is positive, but that one friend is texting you bitching about their day every single day. This fucking happened and I got cut off and man, this sucks, or just everything's always a negative thing, or everything's always a struggle, or, you know, you have that one friend that's always posting shit on social media and airing all their dirty laundry out on social media and, like, you know, always pouring negativity out everywhere they go. I don't care if you have 4 that were positive all day long and you've been trying to keep yourself positive all day long. If you have that one negativity pouring into your life every single day, that's going to draw you down and lower your vibration to think negatively. Maybe not all day long, but at least for a portion of your day, right? And so, like I said, we're not saying to cut people out. You can't change people. We're not saying to cut people out ultimately or altogether. I'm just saying be conscious of who you have in your circle, be conscious of who you have in your society, be conscious of who you have in your culture, because they will affect you and they will affect your society, your culture, your environment, and the way that you see life and the places that you're going in life. It will be affected. So just keep it in mind. That's really all I got.
No, I think that's perfect.
So thanks for tuning into the Dads Who Lift podcast, guys. Again, like I said, we do this stuff for free. Please give us a like, share, 5-star review. We really appreciate it. YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, all the formats are on www.dadswholiftofficial.com. We are on Instagram. IG handle is Dads Who Lift Official. We're on Facebook, Dads Who Lift Podcast. And then we have a Facebook group. This is a group on Facebook for dads, men that are into fitness. It's called Dads Who Lift Official. Group of 30,000 guys are like-minded guys just trying to be the best fathers, best men, best selves, and stay fit at the same time. So if that's something that interests you, check that group out, Dads Who Lift Official, on Facebook. Yeah, like I said, guys, we do this stuff for free, so please give us a like, share, 5-star review. Really, that's all I got.
Keep it positive.
All right, guys. Thanks. Have a great day.
It's like forever, no surrender. It's forever, you know. This like forever. I ain't bigger dead than alive, bigger dead than alive. I ain't bigger dead than alive, dead than alive. Yeah, I ain't bigger dead than alive, bigger dead than alive.